Okay, here we go. This is the review for Fallout 4. My name is Kiereek, and yeah, what a doozy. So Fallout 4, if you've played any of the other Bethesda Fallout games before, you kind of have an idea of what you're doing. It's going to be a first-person or third-person shooter, and it has RPG-like elements. So basically, you'll be exploring the world, you'll be fighting factions, you'll be progressing through a main story, a whole bunch of side stories, side quests, etc. And it generally involves gaining experience, leveling up, gathering new gear, assigning perks, and a number of other things. It always involves a big world, lots of things to kind of see and do. And in this case, Fallout 4 is, well, it's been around for a couple years. I was a little late getting to it. I always wait for the Game of the Year version, and I usually wait for a sale. So let's dive on in. The pros of Fallout 4. Well, the story has potential. I felt that in this particular case, the characters were kind of hard to connect with. Excuse some spoilers in this. If you don't want any spoilers, then maybe it's the time to come back to this after you've played it a bit, but you will form your opinion by then anyway. The characters such as Father, I know we're supposed to have an attachment to him because it's kind of a main part of the main quest, but realistically I thought that a lot of his performance was very dry. I guess that's maybe his thing. He's kind of a man of science. Dryness might be the way to go. The underground characters, again, I think we were supposed to care for them. I couldn't really do it. The only ones I thought really hit home, Piper was good, although maybe a little bit annoying. And I felt like the characters, Diva was really good. Just another example. There's other ones out there as well, but they had multiple dimensions to them. They had aspects where they're upset, aspects where they're confused and they feel like they're wrong, they're vulnerable. Whereas some characters like Father is never really vulnerable. And then the story also tends to take things and turn them on their heads relatively suddenly without a lot of warning. I felt particularly with the Brotherhood of Steel line, when you get to the point where it's supposed to be a choice, you support them or you destroy them, all of a sudden, bam, doesn't matter what you've done, they're your enemies. Too bad, so sad. There wasn't a lot of finesse. It was really very sharp. The world was mostly full, which is good, because in an open world game, that's really what you want. But what I would have liked to see more lore stuff. Stuff that wasn't necessarily quests and missions, but built up on the lore of the whole universe. It felt like everything was kind of contained in this one, specific to Fallout 4, but maybe not branching and referencing other things. I really liked how Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 3 had references to previous games, which I thought were very strong. There are some in this, but I don't even think they're nearly as connected. And the big universe is kind of the big draw of Fallout, right? Like it's a great world they built up. The Far Harbor DLC, I want to give it a special shout out. I thought that was the best part of the whole game, to be honest with you. It took what the regular game was lacking in choice and really just let you have at it. A couple different factions, lots of options, and a whole bunch of different endings. They could go a number of different ways. It even allowed you, I felt like, to be the bad guy, which was kind of a neat thing. We'll get to that later. Now the combat, I think it's improved, and a lot of people didn't like it when it's more shooter focused now, but it's smoother. If you go back to Fallout 3, and I'm only referencing the Bethesda ones because they're the only ones that are similar. Fallout 3, I couldn't quite bridge the gap yet. It didn't have iron sights off the bat. You had to mod those in. New Vegas had the iron sights. It was a bit better, a bit more flowing. And you still had VATS, which was, I don't want to say broken, but it was very powerful. In this one, they've done a bit to tone down the VATS aspect by just making it slow time, and I felt like it wasn't as useful as it has been in past games. It wasn't as buffed. So, in that sense, the combat was very fluid. I found the only thing I would like to change is how you assign the stimpaks and things like that to quick keys. I didn't think that was very useful. It'd be nice if there was a way to have that auto thing. If you have a stimpak, you'll auto heal under 10% health or something like that. That'd be great. Because right now, every time I have to stop, pull the menu up, and stimpak myself or do something, it breaks the flow. Let's go into the cons because I got a lot of them to go through. Well, it's a Bethesda game, so there's bugs. The big one I encountered was that the Brother Steel didn't even appear at all for me at first. I got to see the 3 main members of the Brother Steel at the police station, but the airship never came down, so I never got to instigate the storyline. And because I didn't know it was my first playthrough, right? I didn't know it was supposed to happen. I didn't suspect anything until later, and I'm looking on the internet, and they're like, oh, well, you need to talk to these guys. Well, it didn't trigger. So, because it didn't trigger, I couldn't progress with it. The same thing happened to me with the Kill Desmona quest. We were with the Institute, they wanted to kill Desmona. I had no other options. Like, it literally was the only option. I had to kill her. Not 100% sure if that was a bug, but even when I killed them, it didn't want to progress. I actually had to manually force it with the console to progress. It was really annoying. Loading screens. This is always an issue of Fallout, especially when you start modding. Loading screens go forever. They're annoying. There's too many of them. But that is what it is. There's not a whole lot around that. I wish they would just, I don't know, optimize things maybe? I don't know how to make it better, other than turning down settings, reducing textures, getting a better hard drive, better computer. I'm really sad they decided to go with DC again. I really hated the DC area in Fallout 3. I guess this isn't DC, this is Boston, but it's the East Coast. And as a person who's not from that area, has no commitment to that area, I don't understand why they keep going back to it. I loved New Vegas. I loved that setting of like wasteland. It was truly like a wasteland. It wasn't just a ruined ass city, a bunch of like crappy civilizations. You know what I mean? Show me what happened in other places. We want to know what's going on outside of the States. I want to know what's going on outside of the East Coast. Heck, give me a Texas game. Texas would be fine. Midwest would be kind of interesting. Florida. What's a radioactive crocodile? Actually, don't do that because the swamp sections are horrible.
You'd be helping
now. Choices. Let's talk about choices.
Okay, fine.
In Fallout, there's always been a tradition of you can be
excited.
the bad guy if you want to. You can join the enemies.
Okay.
And Fallout 4 doesn't let you do that. It's just been really restrictive. Every answer you choose, and the dialogue is not clear. It is cryptic. The video you see here, I actually have mods installed to allow me to see what they're actually going to say, more or less. Because there's always a sarcastic answer. You never really know exactly what they're going to say, but it doesn't really affect anything. You're never the bad guy. And that's wrong to me. I want to be the bad guy sometimes. Remember in Fallout 3 where they let you blow up Megaton? Yeah, I want that. Remember in Fallout New Vegas where you could join Caesar's Legion? I want that. How come that's not an option? Far Harbor DLC, they nailed it. Right? Because you could join up the cultists, you could kill the village, you could destroy the Cascadia, or whatever the name of the institute was. It was perfect. They let you have all the options. But for the rest of the game, somehow that got left out. And the dialogue, even in those options, it's not interesting, and I'd say it's cringy. It's to the point where it's cringy and unlikable. It's really too bad on a game that should be, I think, mostly based in its writing and its story. The game for me was brutally unstable. I got to the point where I almost gave up and stopped playing, to be honest. Just so many crashes. Some of that's due to modding, I'm sure. But even when I cleared all that away, like, I don't know, man. It didn't run well. I had to keep turning. I turned down the graphics, like the base level, just to get 60 FPS. You'll see a mix of different footage in here. But it was just a brutally unstable game. I was basically out. And finally, the perk tree. I wish they hadn't done the weird perk tree they had done. The previous one worked so well, where you could just choose from a big list. It's functionally similar. It's just laid out in a different way. I just think it was kind of cheesy to keep leveling up the same perks for more things, and they weren't very inventive. Like perks that give me 10% more carry capacity or 5% more damage are not fun. Give me something wacky. So for the score, let's talk about gameplay. Okay, I get 2 out of 3. Gameplay is solid. It's not perfect. It's solid, but it's not perfect. Like I said, it flows nicely. It just doesn't really feel like you can do everything. Sneak classes didn't seem as powerful in this one. I really liked in previous games you could really sneak and be truly invisible. I couldn't sneak anywhere in this one. It just sucked. And a lot of the other aspects, speech and whatnot, I don't know, they all seem downplayed, right? So the way you felt you had to go was shooting. Always shooting. For addiction, it is pretty addictive. I give it a 1 out of 2. I think the addiction, though, is broken up. This is why you lose a point. The addiction is broken up by the bugs and things like that. When you see something that goes wrong and interrupts your play, it breaks your addiction. Simple as that. Reliability, I gave it a 0.1 out of 1. I'm sorry, but it seems like it barely passed the threshold for what I would consider playable a lot of the time. And yeah, that's all I'll say about that. Atmosphere, it's still a Fallout universe. They did a good job with that, at least 1.5 out of 2. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of buildings. I think the way they built up the cities was very ideal for how that kind of civilization would have existed at the time. And there's a lot going on in terms of danger and lighting, and it all builds the atmosphere together, music. So it's not too bad in that regard. Replay value, I give it a 0.5 out of 2. It's just not there. If you don't have the options of dialogue, the options to be the bad guy, all these choices that make you want to come back and replay, then there is no reason to replay. The only way I see it is maybe try out different builds, but even then, it really seemed like you could just pretty much do a one-size-fits-all build the first time through and not worry about going back and doing it again. So 0.5 is about as good as I can do. That makes the total a 5.1 out of 10. I think it's a low point in the Fallout world, which is unfortunate because I know Fallout 76 is the one that comes next, and it bombed. So I guess it's not a low point in comparison. The recommendation I have is basically, if you want, play through it. If you're looking for a better Fallout game, go play New Vegas. And yeah, as always, there is to that. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the review, and check out some other reviews. In the meantime, have fun, stay safe, and I'll talk to you all again soon.